Hello, this is Neil, the art instructor at masterpaintingnow.com, where you can find over like 400 free art lessons and painting lessons. So let's get started on how to draw a fist. So typically on YouTube and most paid courses you get out there, this is what you're going to see. Them like, all right, here's how you draw a fist. So a fist basically fits into this kind of shape right here. So when you first draw, it kind of has an angle to it because the pinky is smaller than the pointer, or the pinky is smaller than the pointer finger, so you have a slight angle, and the whole thing is going to be on an angle as well, kind of like this right here. Right, that's the basic shape that the fist is going to fit into, and you might even make it a little bit wider if you want. So typically the height is going to be, and this is where they won't tell you things. Those are, like, that's the shape, put it in there, and then you have your middle finger, and then have a shape like this, and that's where your knuckles are going to go. And then to kind of divide this into three. So first I'll just go into right how they're going to do it. And divide this in three, and then you'll divide this almost evenly from here down. This is really where your creases go, and this is where the fingers fit in. And you want to kind of divide this pretty evenly. The pinkies will be a little bit smaller though, like so. And that right there gives you the basic idea of the fist. This is where your creases start. Notice it's on a slight angle too, following the whole entire hand, which is on an angle. Right, and then all you have to do is fit the thumb in. It really depends on the angle of the hand. So this angle of the hand we're going to fit into, the thumb is back here, and it comes underneath the pointer finger, and it's going to end usually right around either at the middle finger or pretty much close at the middle finger. That's where it always ends. No matter how you viewing it, that's pretty much where it ends at, and that's where your thumb will fit into. Then all you do is you add in the anatomy of the hand, and you're good to go. So fit our knuckles in. They're kind of like oval shapes here, and they're not going to extend all the way down to the creases. So it's kind of draw rough ovals that kind of extend outside of the hand. Draw a little bit of skin over there. Draw the shape of the pinky. It comes down like this and kind of angles in because it has that skin before you get down here to this knuckle shape here. There's a flow of skin that comes between here. This might be a little bit more blocky. You just slowly add in the anatomy to the hand here, and you have the skin usually of this finger will kind of stick out a little bit before you get down to the knuckle area, which will be right in here. That's the kind of bony part. Then you'll have some of this middle finger coming into the bony part like this. And it's all kind of slanted this way. And then find this finger here, your ring finger. And then have the thumb like that. And the thumb you're kind of seeing, it just depends on the person making the fist, but we might be able to see some of the nail like that. Sometimes you see more of the top part of the thumb though. And you have this kind of part of the knuckle of the thumb. Right, and there it is. And then again, it's just how much detail you want to add to it. It's just going in, inking it, or painting it, or whatever. And that's going in and adding all the details that you'd want. What details you want to show. How you decide to color it or ink it would be what details you decide to show. And then also the light direction, all that would make a difference as well. But there you go. So that's how typically you would see someone teach how to draw a hand. And so these videos are very short because they're not really teaching much. They're just like drawing and explaining kind of what they're drawing as they're drawing, and I don't think that teaches much, because now if I told you, now go take this video now and now go draw me another fist from a slight angle, you're not going to know how to do that, because unless you already know the mechanics of the hand, it doesn't help any. So what makes the fist? That's what we're going to do now. Now we're going to go into what actually makes up the fist. I'm going to teach the way that I teach, the whys and the hows, that gives you the mechanics of things so that you can truly understand what makes a fist, what it is you're looking at. Then you can take that information, that knowledge, and you can go and draw a fist from an angle once you know the mechanics of the hand. So basically a hand is, if you take the length of a hand, the width of it, 2 widths of the hand is the length of the hand. Kind of like the head, right? So if you take this overall shape here, and I make a box like this, then I make another box. What I've done there by making squares is now I know the length of this here, right, is double the width from here to here. So if I take that length 2 different times, I have the length of my hand. So it's twice as long as it is wide. This shape right here is where you fit your hand into. Now it all just depends on, you know, where the thumb is and stuff, where the high point is. There's going to be angles and stuff. So I'm not going to go over the whole entire hand real quick. I'm not going to redraw the hand because we're focusing on the fist. But I just kind of want to show the length of the hand, and then we'll show what part we're dealing with. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you a hand now without having to show you how to draw it, because I have other videos on that. Right, so here's the basic hand, and the part that is going to be making the fist is going to be from this, is going to be your first flange, it's called. So here you have your metacarpal bones, and that makes up the top portion of your hand. And then it's actually the end of the metacarpal bones that's going to be really making up your knuckles and make a fist. But so it's going to be from here, because as you bend down, you'll see what I'm talking about when I show you the skeleton in a second, to that first end of the first flange. And it's that section right there that's making the fist. And if you know that and you have the mechanics of the hand, then you'll know how to draw the fist from different angles. So let's go ahead and look at the skeleton hand real quick. I think a three-dimensional program will give us a good idea of what we're looking at. Alright, so this here is DAZ Studio 3, and I'm going to use this because I don't have the skeleton in the newest version of DAZ Studio. But what we can see here is when we look at the fist, I'm going to go ahead and do the grasp. But when you grasp means you're making a fist. Watch the bone structure. So here's your metacarpal bones right here. This is your carpal bones right here, and that's where you have, like, you know, you have your tendons that go through here, like wires, and they run along the bones here and they go down. Anyway, so you have the metacarpal bones here, and it's the end of the metacarpal bones here that's actually make your fist. We're going to see in just a second. Notice how we're seeing the tops of the first flange. So just a quick run over if you know what I'm talking about. You have your first flange, second flange, and then your tips, the third flange, and then you have the metacarpal bone. The thumb only has metacarpal bone, first flange, second flange, because the third flange, the tip, is just all part of, it's all one bone. It has these two bones, and the thumb has kind of like fused to one bone. So when you make a fist, notice that we'll go from the side view here as well. We can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So notice how when you make a fist, I'm going to ungrasp it. Right? So you see how the first flange here, it's going to be the one that bends down. The metacarpal bone doesn't turn, it doesn't bend, it stays straight, right? It's a non-bending bone. So as that bends down, let's go more to a front view. What you're seeing is the ends of the metacarpal bones. So that's what you're seeing. And then you're seeing part of the first flange bone come down. And I'm going to just kind of draw that really quickly so you get an idea of what that is. And then you have the thumb, and notice how the thumb comes, when it grasps, it comes in like that and curls around. Alright, so that's what's happening on the bone structure. And I think it's important to understand, like, the mechanics of what's going on if you want to be able to draw this stuff from your imagination. So when you look at the bone structure of a fist, then you have your bones here, and in fact I'm just going to draw right over this so we can get an idea of what the bones look like, and we'll do it in a different color, like red or something. So you have here the metacarpal bone first, and so let's just kind of draw the ends of the metacarpal bone first. So we're looking at the metacarpal bones coming out at us, and they kind of have this kind of shape like this at the end, like this, right? If you're kind of look at the general idea or general shape of the bone. And the reason why they're shaped like that is it allows the tendons to run across here and then run down, and so they're bending over. So you actually might see the tendons there as well. Actually, you're gonna end up seeing the tendons there. That's what gives the pointiness to that metacarpal bone. And this is a rough estimation of what it looks like. I'm just kind of try and draw it quickly here, like that. Now, connected to the end of this bone, and it has like a groove that goes in, so I can kind of make that groove going in like that, is then you have your first flange, and it kind of fits into this bone, and it kind of has a similar shape right here, like this, and it kind of comes down like this, and it gets thinner. Then it comes out and it gets kind of thicker again, and it kind of has a shape like this at the end, allowing that tendon to go all the way along here, and the tendon continues to go around. Again, I'm not going to show the whole entire anatomy here. Again, check out my anatomy course for that, and then you'll get into that. Anyway, so that's how the bone structure is working. That's what's making the shape of the knuckle here. And so what the main part of the shape you're seeing on the top here is actually the top of the metacarpal bones, not your flange. So just know that when you have your hand bent, let's say this is the end of the metacarpal bone right here, and it's coming down and connecting to your carpal bones. Then you have the tendon that goes across the top. Then you have your first flange, which comes like this, right here. So where it bends, then this goes down. The fist, then, if you were to draw a line, starts from like right here to here. That's what makes up the fist right there. So you're seeing part of the metacarpal bone, and that's the main top of the fist that you're seeing there. So when we draw the main shape, the basic shape that the fist is going to fit into, which is right here, that's like your first flange. This area up here, that triangle kind of thing we drew on top of it, that's going to be your metacarpal bones. And so you can kind of draw those as oval circles when you're doing the basic shape of the fist. So now that you have a better understanding, hopefully, of the mechanics of the fist, it'll make it easier when you're drawing the fist. And I think that's what people lack. That's what these courses out there lack. That's what these lessons out there lack. That's what all these YouTubers out there lack. They're like, hey, let's draw a fist, and hey, let's draw a manga face. And it's like, so you want to start with a bigger circle like this, and then you want to kind of divide it in half, and come to a point, and this is the basic shape of the head, and then make sure you put your big eyes in here, and they don't want to be too close together, too far together. And so as they're teaching this, and there's a little tiny nose and little mouth, and they have a kind of a longer chin, and it's pointy, and they have a really thin neck, and then you want to add the hair, and the hair comes like this, and anyway, I'm just doing this very quickly, get an idea, and I can actually turn that into a face, believe it or not, even though it looks really sloppy right now. They don't teach like why and the mechanics of things, and that's what's necessary to know how to draw from your mind. I mean, if someone taught you how to draw figures like that, they're like, all right, so here's what the figure looks like from the side view, and here's what it has a kind of angle here and a kind of angle here, and then you kind of bring it, and it has the neck, and you have the head, and then you have the legs, and they kind of come out this way, and then they kind of come back, and you have the foot, and you have the arms coming down. That's off balance, but you get the idea. And so they're showing you that's how the figure looks like on the side, here it looks like on the front, but they don't show the mechanics of everything, like how it works and how the body flows together and how bones connect, and how how they move, and how is it that the muscles flex and where they connect. They don't show you all that kind of stuff. You're not going to be able to draw it from imagination, and a lot of people undervalue, I think, drawing from imagination is very important, because if you want to be a concept artist, or you want to be a comic artist or an animator, you need to be able to draw very quickly, and the only way to be able to do that is from imagination. What if you wanted to draw a guy, you have this scene in your mind, or you're reading a script and they're telling you this is what we want you to do. You start your job and they think you're good at drawing because you show them a good portfolio, and they're like, all right, let's test you out for a week. And they're like, all right, so you're reading the script and it's like, all right, the guy is carrying the girl and between his arms and stuff, and so you're like, okay, well, how do I draw that? Well, if you don't know how to draw from imagination, you're gonna have a hard time doing that. Okay, he's kind of hunched over, so I'm gonna kind of see his shoulders here, and his arms are gonna kind of come this way. He's gonna make some kind of gesture like this, right? And then let's say she's kind of like hung over like this, and her breasts are being kind of pulled back and down, and her neck and everything, so she's going to be fitting somewhere in this area like this, and she's going to have this kind of arch to her, and we might be seeing some of the side view of her. So if you don't have the knowledge on how to draw from your imagination, then being able to do any of this isn't be impossible, and his arms are becoming underneath her, let's say, but she's going to but not except for this arm here. So just kind of basically rough it in, and maybe elbow here, and kind of coming under. Well, once you get to here, it's going to come underneath, and then you have her shoulder, here her arm. Maybe her arm's kind of falling down because she's just kind of like passed out, and the other arm back there as well. And you kind of see a sort of a side view of her head here. Kind of a 3/4 view of her head and neck coming up this way. And so if you think about all this stuff, and you got this down because you learned the anatomy of everything properly, then she's going to be kind of coming like that, and maybe you'll be able to see part of it. It depends on what angle you're seeing her at. She might be going away from us over there, and then her legs are hanging back there a little bit, and you might be able to see her feet back here like this. If you don't know how to, again, draw from imagination, though, you're not going to be able to figure out any of this, like how her head's bigger than his because she's coming out towards us and he's further away from us, and so you have some distance here. And being able to do all that, and that's a real quick thing, but I can actually turn this into a drawing, believe it or not. I know it seems weird, like it doesn't seem like you're looking at much there, like with scribbles, but all that matters is that I know what I'm looking at, and I know where I'm going with it, and what the end result's going to be like. So being able to draw from imagination, you have to be able to do that, and it means you have to do a lot of learning. So That's what my courses do. That's what my lessons do. They teach you the mechanics of things so you can take this knowledge and draw from imagination. Now, hopefully now, if you already have the basic mechanics of the hand because you've learned them somewhere, whether it be from one of my courses or somewhere else, or lessons, and you know the basic mechanics of the hand and how it works, then you can take that knowledge and go, okay, now I understand better how the fist works, because I know what knuckles and stuff are being viewed and what's making the fist. Then you can go in and go, because these finger, this part is being tucked under, and you can see the thumb is being pulled and tucked under as well. So if you wanted to draw a fist that was from a slightly different angle, where it's kind of angled out this way, and this is kind of going away from us, then you would still draw the same idea, but it's being foreshortened just a little bit, right? But the same basic shape's going to be there, like that. You're going to start with that same basic shape. Now we know why that shape existed. Before it was like, here's the shape fitted into there. Now we know why we're drawing that shape to begin with. And so now I'm going to kind of foreshorten that pinky more, and everything is getting shorter as it goes that way, like that. Because now I'm being able to see some of the the wrist, and then you have some of the forearm as it comes down. Out here it's being foreshortened, and then the thumb, we're going to be seeing more of the thumb as it comes down this way. And it's still going to come to that same spot there, and you'll be able to see some of the thumbnail as it goes like this. Seeing more of the tip of the thumb. And now I know why I have the shapes too of my, because I understand the mechanics, so now I know why I'm doing the shapes. And if you know the mechanics of the bones there, then you know why it is you have the shapes you have with the hand, in this case with the fist. And so you know how to draw the different shapes you want to draw. And so that's more of like how it'd be, if you're kind of viewing it a little bit from the side angle, so we'll see a little bit more of the side of this finger as well here. And that's just really quickly done, but you get the idea. You won't be able to do that though if you don't understand the mechanics of things. You'll be able to draw that quickly from your mind and angle the fist at different angles. What if you want to angle the fist down a little bit? So now what happens is you have that triangle, but it's pointing down, and you're able to see a little bit of a foreshortened version of the metacarpal bones, which fit in this area here. And then you see these parts right here coming down, right? And that's making up that part of the fist there. And let's say the thumb's over on that side still, but you can't really see it, right? So now we're seeing the metacarpal bone and then the first flange coming down here. And so we still kind of break this into thirds still, and you have kind of evenly break it into 4 different parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And that's where your creases are. Ends of the knuckles come down here, where it bends at the first flange, like this, and then you kind of have the kind of some of the fat that builds up here. And then here you're going to have each knuckle as it comes down. It's like now they're like this, and they kind of come down more like this here into these were the flanges if you were to draw them. And then you have the connection point over here somewhere to the hand, to the wrist. And so now the fist is kind of coming down like that, and then of course the thumb would come off here, and it kind of comes underneath. We don't really see it now because before we were seeing this front plane, we were seeing this plane here, and therefore we're able to see a little bit of the thumb. But now the thumb kind of comes, comes down, it comes underneath here, and now we can't really see it, so we just see part of it because the hand's facing down. So understanding the mechanics of how things work will help us figure out how to draw from imagination, and that's why it's so important. And actually, now that I think about it, I actually want to angle this in more like this, because that's where both fingers kind of angle in more together. When I did the fist, kind of did it incorrectly there, just a little bit, but easy fix. So that's the basics of the fist, the mechanics of it, and if you use that knowledge, you can hopefully start drawing your fists better because you understand them better. The side view of the fist is kind of the same idea. You have the metacarpal bone coming out here. We know that that's forming majority. Let me just do a basic shape of it. That's joining. And then you have the carpal bones. But it says end of the metacarpal bone. That's forming the majority of your knuckle. And then the other bone, it sits on there, but it kind of comes down. This is your first flange, and it comes down to here like this, right? And then it bends in. You have your second flange, and then the third flange, whatever. However you bend it together to make your fist. and then you have the the thumb coming off here somewhere, and it's coming down, and it's bending over like that and under there somewhere. So when you understand the mechanics of what happens with the bones, and then you also understand the tendons and everything, and then you can imagine the flesh going over it and all the structures, then you can start to go, okay, so now I get that basic shape, and then of course you have to fit in. It's gonna be a kind of shape like that for the side view, and then the wrist comes off like this. When you make a side fist, and this will be the side, thumbs and beyond and everything. But it's understanding that structure, and that's what makes that knuckle. So when you view it from the front, you're viewing a lot of this right here, part of the metacarpal bone, and then some of the flange here, and that's what's making the knuckle. So you're seeing like a step right here taking effect. But from the front view, you kind of don't totally see that step. It's here, the step's there, but from the front view, you kind of don't see it as much, right? But that's what's making that shape there. So understanding this, and so basically what we want to do is, when you're drawing the fist, is take a 3D program or something that has a skeletal structure that you can move around, and take it and view it from the side view, and be like, okay, so when I take and I grasp my hand out open, and I close it, and I take the thumb, then I close it too, what exactly is making up the fist, and also do that with a three-dimensional hand, and take your own hand and look at it, open and close it, figure out the mechanics of it, and then you'll understand how to draw that thing that much better, because you'll understand the mechanics of what it is you're actually drawing. And once you understand that, you'll draw it much better. So you know that you have, again, just quickly do this. So this comes out, this doesn't bend. This is your metacarpal bone, and then you have your carpal bones here, which kind of, from the side view, have a shape like this. I go through this in the anatomy course and stuff. So, and the thumb, the metacarpal bone of the thumb is going to come off, and it kind of comes off this way. And this always pretty much makes a triangle like this when we make a fist. So you imagine this main triangle here. Why is that triangle there? Because this is how the metacarpal bones are naturally from the side view when you make a fist. It's just the metacarpal bone. Metacarpal bone of the thumb moves a little bit, but these bones here stay rather stationary. And then you have your first flange bone that comes off, and remember, as we showed, it has that kind of step to it. So it kind of connects here. There's a slight step here to it, so we're going to see part of that bone, and it's going to come down at a slight angle like this. It might even come out forward at a slight angle, like a little bit like this. Just depends on how tight the fist is. And then you have your second bone, which is a little bit shorter than that one. And then finally your tip bone, which is even a little bit shorter than that, coming straight up. And it really depends on how you make your fist. You can really turn that bone up a lot. Then you have to account for the flesh coming in here, right? So let's make it even come up more like this, more tight fist. And then the thumb, you have your first flange, the second flange. It's going to kind of just come off this way, and it's going to curve under that way, and it's being foreshortened away from us. Once you understand that, then it's just a matter of thickening up. Now you add in the skin. You have the wrinkles in here, because as you make the fist, all this skin becomes wrinkled, and it all kind of forms together from the side view. You might be able to see a little bit of the thumb going out that way. And then you start to make your fist. So how we make sense of that then? Let's go ahead and just slightly erase it. Right, so obviously the fist will be a little bit smaller than the one I did the wrist, so let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. And typically the shape that comes off here is you're going to have this kind of part of the bone here, you can kind of see. And then you have the inside of the wrist here. You're going to be able to see a little bit of this indent usually of this tendon that comes this way. But anyway, so where the thumb comes off, which is right around here, remember this is, you have the carpal bones in here. Then you have that metacarpal bone coming out, and then you're going to have, where you see it, you're really going to be able to see part of the structure of the bone right here as it comes down. And it can have a little bit of fat tissue here. And then it's going to kind of turn in, and it's going to go that way to that part of the bone there. Now the basic shape is you have where you have the flange, your first flange coming in, so have this metacarpal bones coming out this way, making that first knuckle. Now imagine you have a circle here and a circle here, and they're rather close together. And the reason why is because the first flange rather, that comes down, when you make a tight fist, it comes really close to the part of the metacarpal bone here of your thumb. And then you have the, I guess you actually call that more of your, that's part of metacarpal and part of the first flange of the thumb. Anyway, the thumb is then going that way and disappearing underneath, so we can't see it. We just see the, this end of that knuckle right there. And then the fingers cover it. So it's going to come down this way. And sometimes it comes down a little bit right here. Like this will kind of come down into the thumb like this. That is the second flange. And you'll have your, the wrinkles of the skin coming in this way and this way. Then you'll have the tip, which is right here, which is going to be hidden by part of the skin that comes here, here, and here. It's all kind of hiding. And you have that right there. So it's almost like comes out like that, like a spiral effect. And then there's a little dark area here, and you see a little bit of the tip of the finger that curls up in that area. And that's typically what, a fist will more look like. So then we can kind of come in here and think about the bone structure again, and then you'll understand, what is it, why is it the fist taking that shape, and that's why it's the bone structure that you're seeing underneath it, and the tendons and everything else. I like to, if I do a really strong powerful fist, I like to kind of make this come up more, and so I can kind of see part of the thumb here, like that, part of the side part of the thumb, and then from here, you have all the skin coming out, and you have the part of the bone here, but you're going to have all the skin that comes out here, and it starts curving. And just imagine like a snail somewhere in this area here, it all kind of starts unraveling, wrapping around. And so you have a lot of that curving of the skin and kind of a little bit of fat tissue. And then you have that first part of your phalange of your finger here. And it's going to kind of come to make a little bit of wrinkle here. Everyone's a little different, but typically one of the wrinkles comes to the end of that first flange here. So just imagine that line coming all the way down like this. So if this is your first flange bone, like this, and this right here is part of the metacarpal bone, which comes back this way, like that, right? It's the middle of that first flange right here where it starts to turn into the second flange here. So imagine when there's one circle here, and then right here is where the second flange begins to connect. That wrinkle comes just imagine it come all the way down right there and cutting it, but don't cut that far. Only come about halfway and leave enough space here. And then you're going to have this skin that comes off this way like that, blocking part of the view of the finger. And then, the part of your finger comes up and it tucks into here. This is actually the tip of your finger being tucked up into here, and you can't really, it's all being covered by all this, so you can't really see it. You might be able to see some wrinkles, but that's it. And that's going to be darker up in here. But that basic shape right there is the shape you want to memorize for the side fist. And this might even, this right here, I kind of imagine this tendon coming out this way and kind of just coming and becoming part of the fist here. Sometimes I'll make this even bigger like that. But that's the basic shape. Right. And so now that we went through the side view of the skeletal structure, and then you add the skin onto it, you can kind of see, okay, well that's what forms that shape. That's why that shape is formed, and that's a little bit too big right there. So you have more of a straight line right here because of the metacarpal bone. Then you have you're seeing a little bit of that furthest bone. That's the end of the ulna bone there that connects right there, and that becomes part of the elbow. Right, so just remember the pinky side, the other side of the hand over there, that's what you're seeing. This is the thumb side, so you're seeing the thumb side of the wrist. It's more somewhere around in here because it's being foreshortened. You're not really seeing much of the top plane, but that bump back there is actually from the ulna bone on the other side of the pinky side of the hand. We're viewing the thumb side of the hand. Thumb side of the hand is the radius. Alright, so we can go to different views of the fist, but if you just understand like what you're looking at and how the fist is formed, then you'll get a better idea of how to draw the fist. And for example, there's the undersides of the fist. So just like real quickly, if you again you have the wrist coming here, keeping the main shape of the fist. You know, you have where the thumb, where the pinky kind of comes off a little bit here. If you kind of keep that the main shape of the fist in mind, because you know the underlining structure of the fist. Kind of clean it up a little bit. Then you can go, okay, so I know I have this first finger wrapping around. This will be your pointer finger, and the thumb's going to come up this way, like this and like this. And then coming out kind of bends over, and depends on how hard the fist is, it bends over, you know, sometimes all the way over to the middle finger. The middle finger just depends on how loose or tight it is. If it's tighter, then the thumb's going to come even more over, and it's going to, you know, it's going to come way over here, like more to the middle finger area. Then you have that first finger coming out here, and you have the knuckle. Then you have second knuckle, that's the middle finger, third knuckle, and your pinky knuckle. And all this kind of comes together. Just remember that the structure of the fist, that all the fingers kind of come together like that to a point. And if you keep that in mind, it'll help you draw the fist better. And then you can kind of divide this evenly, sort of like this. Now keep in mind, from this view, you're seeing not the first flange, we're seeing the second flange, and the tip is being foreshortened a lot, which is right about here. So mainly what we're seeing in this area of each one of these now, in this view, is different than here. Here we're viewing the first flange, here we're viewing the second flange of the bone. So this is a totally different knuckle that you're viewing at the top right here. You're viewing that the knuckle made from the second flange and the first flange connecting together. The principle is kind of the same. They have the tendons rolling across, so you still get kind of a point to them. The pinky's gonna really come in like this, and then you'll see a little bit of the end like that, and then you'll see a little bit of the tip, and the tip's being foreshortened, so you're not gonna see much of it, and it's gonna be in shadow. Right? Same thing with all these bones. They all come across like this. You kind of see the ends of them, except for the thumb here is overlapping that one. You can't see it, but then you have a little bit of the tip, so the tips are kind of, you know, pulling back away from us into the hand, and so you don't really see much of the tips of the fingers there, because they're being pulled into the hand. Then you'll have your, you know, this part of the palm here, and that there, that splits. That's where your fingers are pulling into the pads of your palm there. And that's like the basic idea of the fist when you have it clenched. And if you understand all these kind of mechanics and begin to, you know, study the hand more in more detail, then with drawing the fist, hopefully this information I'm giving with drawing the fist will come in handy when you're drawing the fist in different angles. So, you know, I can't stress enough how important it is to, you know, when you're drawing, to learn the mechanics of things. Very important. That's how you learn how to draw from your imagination. And hey, if you wanted to check out some of my courses, just go to my site. It's again masterpaintingnow.com. The link is in the description below this video. Just click on it, and I have a bunch of free tutorials you can check out. Also, you can just search my YouTube channel for a bunch of free tutorials. Just type in whatever it is you want to know. It's most likely I have something on it, a video on it, on drawing. And then also, if you found this helpful and you think other people might find it helpful, which, you know, if you find it helpful, it's most likely other people find it helpful as well. Go ahead and click the share button when the video ends, and then share it, you know, wherever you want, Facebook, Google Plus, whatever, and you know, plus up the video, you know, thumbs up the video. That'd be awesome. That's always helpful. And then make a comment on the video. That's really helpful too. Any participation you do in the video helps the video get seen by more people, especially if you share it on your Facebook or on your Google Plus, because then that kind of just branches out to a bunch of people, and they see it, and they see it, and then they share it, and it just gets shared a lot more often. That way more people will be benefited by this, because, you know, being able to draw from imagination is so important. And I know a lot of people out there, you know, they have dreams of becoming a comic artist or a video game artist or an animator, or you know doing video game characters or concepts for video games and movies, or they want to be a storyboard artist, or, you know, whatever they want to be. It requires them to be able to draw quickly and to be able to draw from imagination. So this is the kind of information they need. So, you know, share this video, because just by sharing this video as well, they can see my channel, and they can see all those other 400 plus, you know, free lessons to learn on. So I appreciate it. Let's help people learn. Let's help them, you know, achieve their dreams, which is going to take them drawing from mind. And unfortunately, a lot of, you know, art instructors and stuff, even in prestigious schools, don't teach how to draw from mind. They teach how to, let's learn how to draw someone in front of us. That doesn't really help you draw from mind very much. You know, knowing the mechanics helps you draw from mind. And so they're teaching, they spend all these years in school and they don't have the necessary knowledge to go out and get a job being a comic artist. And this is the kind of stuff it takes to do that. Thanks for watching.